Buffalo Bills fans are chippy, to say the least, after the first day of free agency. Seems like a lot of people are split on the first day. There's a lot of people trying to convince us that this is actually a good thing, that Brandon Beane isn't spending money. We're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss the signings, some of the big-time signings, and we're going to discuss what that actually means for the Bills and the path that we've been taking so far. The fans are uneasy, myself included, because, we're seeing other teams eat, and we're just going to be getting the leftovers. It looks like the same thing every year. Beane does this now. He's really good at doing this, where it seems like we're not going to do anything, and then all of a sudden our roster gets filled. But we've been getting the 26th pick in the draft every single season with that strategy, and it seems to be headed in that direction again. Bills fans are telling themselves that DJ Moore was a steal after seeing the Alec Pierce contract, but I'm looking at the math, and we might be lying to ourselves about that, to be honest with you. Pierce just signed for $116 million over 4 years. That's $29 million a year with $84 million guaranteed. Where AJ Brown is getting a similar guaranteed agreement, while he still does get a larger annual value. Rightfully so, in my opinion. He's a better player than Alec Pierce. But that kind of is my point. These guys are getting essentially the same guaranteed money. And in the NFL, when you're looking at a contract, a lot of times you hear X over this many years. And in reality, that's not the contract. The contract is the guaranteed money, because that's how much is guaranteed. If they perform or they play out their full entire contract, then they can get the full amount. But the guaranteed amount is really what the player's gonna get paid, right? And when you look at it, Alec Pierce is guaranteed $84 million, just like AJ Brown. We see these analysts, they're talking about DJ Moore coming over and being a steal, right? Granted, Beane made a great, smart decision in trading for Moore instead of allowing him to hit the free agent market, right? And I think that's where this is coming from, because a lot of people are saying, oh, well, look at Alec Pierce. What if DJ Moore was on the market and we would have had to pay, whatever, right? I think that's where the justification is starting to come in. But in reality, the way that I'm looking at it is DJ Moore is hamstringing us. Crosby went for 2 firsts. I think we could have got AJ for a first and a second. I think we could have got AJ for a first and a second. And if we would have pulled off AJ for a first and a second and Crosby went for 2 firsts, then we would have looked like the winners in the trade market, because we'd have said, oh, well, those are 2 clearly impact players at their positions, at positions that are very important in this NFL. And one went for 2 firsts and one went for a first and a second. And everybody would have said, oh, well, clearly the AJ Brown trade would have been a better trade. And so we would have won on the national optics type level, right? Which, who really cares about that? But that's what we do. We bump our gums, right? And granted, he would have hamstrung us too. His contract is larger actually than DJ Moore, so it would have been a little bit worse, but it would have been AJ Brown. And hindsight is 2020. He would have cost as much as Alec Pierce. AJ Brown. As much as Alec Pierce. What universe are we in right now? Look, it's not all doom and gloom, okay? Beane is really, really good at some things, and in my opinion, not good at other things. But the things that he's good at, he's like a superstar at those things. And one of those things is keeping our guys. He always ends up getting our guys to take deals. And that is something that is a talent in and of itself. And I applaud him for that. He is probably one of the best GMs in the NFL at that, getting guys to stay. And one of the biggest pieces of evidence for that is the Connor McGovern signing. Connor McGovern is $13 million a year. Connor McGovern is clearly a top 5 center in the NFL. Clearly. It's clear. And he may be a little bit older, I think, than definitely older than Linderbaum. But $13 million a year compared to $27 million a year. That's a swing of $14 million. That's like a pass rusher. Not like a premier pass rusher, but that's insane. The gap between them two is not $14 million a year. I could promise you that. So this right here is a home run. Home run. This is the best move that I think that he's made all year. And it might end up being one of the best moves. We'll see what happens to the rest of free agency, and we will see what happens in the draft. The McGovern deal might end up being the best deal that he makes this offseason, because that's incredible. I mean, he got at the low end of what he was even projected anyways, much less what ended up really actually happening in real life. Linderbaum is getting $9 million per year more than Creed Humphrey. Wow. Bravo. Hats off to you, Brandon Beane. That is probably the steal of the entire offseason, the free agency right there. That's incredible, and no one's even talking about it. What am I looking forward to now? I mean, obviously, the reason that Bills fans are on edge is because we know usually the best players go the first day. There's still guys like Leo Chenal out there and all that, but like, we want to make those big deals the first day, not to hamstring the team, but because we know how close the team is. And we see teams doing that kind of thing, going out and getting Crosby, you know? What I'd like to see is starting caliber players. We need at least one starter from the draft. We need at least like 3 starters from free agency. Probably stuff like buy low players, you know, like Evan Neal, like I talked about, guys who maybe got injured last year and got looked over, or people who are still young, got drafted pretty high and didn't really pan out at their first stop. What do you guys think? Are we waiting for everyone else to eat so we can get a discount, or are we just broke? Is Beane being smart, or is he being safe? Let me know down in the comments section. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching.